Well, good afternoon and welcome to this Thursday Thought. I was in our front yard doing some gardening in one of our front flower beds a few days ago. It had recently rained some and the weeds were easy to pull, so I was spending some time doing just that. And out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a golf cart pulling up into the drive and coming toward me. Now, I knew that Rick, our neighbor, was coming to see me for some reason. Sometimes it's just to visit. Other times he needs me to maybe do something for him. Rick is retired and he has difficulty getting around due to the after effects of a long ago stroke. He often uses the golf cart to get the mail or visit relatives a couple of blocks away in our neighborhood, so it wasn't at all surprising that he showed up in our drive. Now, it turned out that he wanted me to go next door to his place and try to raise the hood on one of his vehicles. I don't know why, but he wanted to look under the hood. He had pulled the release inside the cabin of the vehicle, but he couldn't figure out where the secondary latch was that would give final release. Now, it isn't unusual for him to ask me to do some small thing such as this, and I'm happy to oblige. He and Sharon, his wife, they're good neighbors, and they're doing the best that they can to make their way in these latter stages of life and living in spite of the difficulties that they might have. Well, I went with him into the garage and I made certain that the release had indeed been pulled at the cabin. And then I went to the front of the vehicle, turned on the flashlight on my phone, and looked under the hood for the secondary latch. Well, it was right there in the space between the hood and the radiator, which is where I expected it to be. It was difficult for me to reach my hand into that space, though, far enough to manipulate the latch lever, and I don't have large hands at all. Rick's hands were much larger than mine, and they weren't as nimble due to his physical condition. I think he probably wasn't able to get his hand in far enough to even touch the lever, let alone move it to raise the hood. Well, when I did get my hand to the lever, at first I couldn't raise the hood either, even though the lever moved. I tried a couple more times and got it to raise up. Well, it turned out that the hood latch was built so that if one lifted on the lever too hard, it seemed to catch somehow and it wouldn't let the hood up. Now, whether that was an intentional thing or just a flaw in the design, I don't know. One had to lift rather gently on the lever, and then the hood would go right up. Well, the first couple of times I was trying too hard, making things more difficult the harder I tried. How often have you found yourself in that position in life? Something happens that you need to respond to, or you'd like for something to happen in a certain way, and you find out that the harder you try to make whatever it is happen, the worse the situation becomes. I like to use the word finagle to describe such behavior. I know the dictionary definition of the word, but I tend to take a little different personal view of that word. While the dictionary describes the word as resorting to deception, cheating, or swindling, as a secondary definition, it also uses the term cleverness to explain the word. And that's how I use the word cleverness. We will resort to almost any means to get the results we want, as long as those means don't conflict too much with our moral compass. Fixing the issue of trying too hard doesn't mean, however, that we don't try at all. Sitting back and letting the world go by, not engaging in anything of substance, is not how God wired us. He has outfitted us with certain talents and abilities, and He expects us to use them to use them for His glory and for His purpose. As it is with many things in life, there's a kind of a happy medium here where we're diligent and purposeful in what we do, but we don't overdo it, nor do we just sit back and let things deteriorate either. Finding that happy medium, that's sometimes one of the more difficult things that we humans encounter. It takes maturity, wisdom, and yes, even courage and strength to resist going off the deep end one way or the other and just stay on course. When God is our guide in life and living, when our desire is to serve Him and our joy is participating with Him in the renewal of the creation in our sphere of things, then we are within His will and His purpose for us. Don't lift the hood latch too forcefully because it won't work. Don't try too hard. Do find joy in what you do for the Lord. Do find satisfaction in partnering with God in your sphere of influence. And do allow Him to do the finagling, as it were, for you and on your and His behalf. And then rest in the knowledge that He is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is working within us. Blessings.